Dean Rusk disagrees with you, and he was the Secretary of State at the time, but that's fine.
The communist nations have exploited the turmoil of a time of transition in an effort to extend communist control into other areas of the world.
Thoughts on Dean Rusk and America's involvement in Vietnam? I know next to nothing about that.
Exactly.
The planned freeze, writes NBC, is part of a sweeping effort by President Donald Trump. So they have the media, the courts, the bureaucracy. The media, the courts, the bureaucracy. That's what Trump is up against. That's what we're up against. And by the way, interesting to hear some of our liberal friends on Fox and elsewhere to talk about separation of powers. Wow, I never heard them talk about separation of powers. I hear them about destroying the independence of the Supreme Court. I hear them defending Joe Biden when he defies a Supreme Court ruling that says he cannot eliminate student debt, but he did to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. He can't do that, they say. That is Trump. But Trump hasn't violated any order. And there is no Supreme Court order. What is it? Biden, right? That's what I thought. Biden. It's a Biden judge. That judge is there to protect what Biden did, the Biden regime, and all past Democrats. The planned freeze is part of a sweeping effort by Donald Trump and his advisors to eliminate government spending that's not in line with his agenda. He's asked for a freeze so he can find out what the hell's going on. It's funny. It's okay for the judge to put a freeze on the freeze while he's trying to figure out what's going on. But when the elected president of the United States, the head of the executive branch, says, I need a freeze to figure out what's going on, well, we got to hold off on that. So keep spending until I, the judge, put a freeze on the freeze in order to see if I agree with the freeze. The move was announced in a Monday night memo from the acting director of the Office of Management and Budget, which said the agencies had to temporarily pause all activities related to obligation and disbursement of all federal financial assistance and other relevant agency activities that may be implicated by the executive orders, including but not limited to financial assistance for foreign aid, non-governmental organizations. See that? Excuse me. Foreign aid, non-governmental organizations, which are all these radical left-wing groups. DEI, woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. So there he is, Trump, striking right at the heart of you and me and the American taxpayer, financing the radical left, non-governmental organizations, DEI, woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. And the judge says, wait, you can't freeze that. I'm putting a freeze on your freeze so I can see if I agree with you. And so, of course, Trump is striking at the monster, at the Leviathan. He's striking at it. And so they're going to the courts, the unelected judge, a Biden appointee, who gives them at least temporarily what they want. Just like they go out to the West Coast, to Seattle, to an old man on senior status, a federal judge who shouldn't even be a federal judge anymore. But don't worry, he's a Reagan appointee, who gave them what they wanted on birthright citizenship. So this is the way it is. When a conservative, a Donald Trump, win an election, the real insurrection, the real usurpation, the real anti-democratic forces, and I mean that, unelected judges, unelected bureaucrats, unelected non-governmental organizations and radical leftists, many of which and whom have been funded by you and me, they jump into action. They've got their plans ready to go if they lose an election. They're the real insurrectionists. They're enshrined in our system. They're enshrined in our system. And so on goes NBC News. And we have a media that is not only not curious, a media that is filled with propagandists for the left. This is part of the culture that Donald Trump is dealing with. This is why they tried to put him in prison. I'm just telling you. The freeze immediately sparked confusion about exactly what types of federal spending would be affected. And Tuesday's court order was just the first step in what's expected to be a major legal battle over the issue that could quickly end up before the Supreme Court. And they've worked over the court. They've worked over a couple of justices. And if the justices don't give them what they want, we're going to get right back to stuffing the Supreme Court with a few more Stalinists, all that kind of stuff. Because the poor leftists, they just never get what they want. And so they try to steamroll the entire system. Steamroll. The power of Congress to dictate federal spending is outlined in the Constitution will be at the center of litigation that could end up at the Supreme Court. So they've already decided, NBC News, that Trump's actions are unconstitutional. I don't know what these courts are going to do. They're unpredictable. You got kooks, leftists, ideologues, cowards all over the damn place wearing black robes, many of whom are positioning themselves. Some of them want bigger positions in the court system. Some of them want the right up by the New York Slimes and the Washington Compost. These are all flesh and blood, these people. There's a relative small percentage of federal judges or any judges that actually just call it as they see it, based on the text, the original meaning, the legislative history, that is, the law and the Constitution. There's damn few of them. And when they do, wait a minute, that's got to be a right-winger. Wait a minute, that's Supreme Court. We got to change the court. Wait a minute. Yeah. While they're busy yelling about Trump doesn't have this power, Joe Biden used the bureaucracy, used his so-called power to change our entire economy, to change our energy system, to change our border and immigration system, to change our educational system, to change science. Men are men and women are women. No, they're not. He didn't do any of this by legislation. Not one damn word of it. And yet, now the Democrats are saying, wait a minute, only Congress can dictate federal spending. And they've got their judges and they've got their bureaucrats. And they've got some cowardly Republicans on the Supreme Court, namely the Chief Justice and Barrett, his lapdog. We'll see how this goes.